Welcome, class, to Lesson 6-1. Strong mathematicians can express fractions as sum of unit fractions. So today, get out your notebook, your pencil, and let's get started. So as a start of the lesson, we have some different vocabulary words that are important. So right now, it's important that we write down these notes to really help us understand the content we'll be learning about in this unit. So unit fraction is very important. So what is a unit fraction? It represents one equal part of a whole. A unit fraction has a numerator of 1. The unit fraction is 1/d is 1 of d equal parts. Now that's really confusing in that we're going to show you some pictures and we'll break down some other parts and some other keywords to help us really get a better understanding of what this is. So we're going to talk about a fraction bar right now to help us out. The fraction bar below is divided into 6 equal parts or sixths. Each part is one of, I should say of right there, of 6 equal parts or 1/6. So this right here is a unit fraction, 1/6, because it's one part of the whole. So no matter how many pieces I have, we go back to this key part right here, 1 over d, it's one of however many pieces. If we have 100 pieces, 1 over 100 would be the unit fraction. If we have 3 pieces, 1 over 3 would be that part. So 1 is always a numerator, and the denominator is how many parts you have. So let's take a look at the next one. So some other notes help us out. A fraction is a sum of unit parts. So notice the fraction n over d is the sum of n copies of 1d. Well, what is n? N is the numerator. The numerator, which is the number of unit fractions in a fraction. So how many numerators do you have? The bottom number is the denominator, and that is how many equal parts are there in the whole. So the numerator is how many pieces you have, and the bottom number is how many parts make up the whole. So that's kind of a lot going on, so I'm going to pause that one again. So a fraction is the sum of unit fractions. The fraction n over d is the sum of n copies of 1 over d. Said this little line shouldn't be there. And the same thing with the bottom one, numerator, n over d. Numerator is the number of unit fractions in the fraction. And denominator is the number of equal parts in the whole. That's the denominator. So you'll see numerator, you'll hear denominator, you'll hear unit fractions. So those are the kind of the key words to get from this vocabulary. So one last thing, said the fraction of 5/6 is the sum of 5 1/6 unit fractions. So we've written it two ways. So here's our 5/6. Notice we have 1/6 plus 1/6 plus 1/6 plus 1/6 plus 1/6. That would be the sum of unit fractions. Another way to write it that we'll focus about it more would be 5, because we know that a repeated addition can be summed up with multiplication. So it'd be 5 times 1/6. This would be the product of a whole number, which would be the 5, and a unit fraction. There's that word unit fraction again, and our unit fraction would be 1/6. So notice both of those would get you 5/6. So that would be 1/6 plus 1/6 plus 1/6 plus 1/6 plus 1/6, or 5 times 1/6. So you can pause this right now and write down this information to help you out. And with that, we're going to get started. It says, write the fraction as a sum of unit fractions. So sum of unit fractions. If we see the word sum, we know we're adding. So we're going to do that part first. So we see 3/4, which means we would start with 1/4, because that's a unit fraction. Sum means add, so we'd have to add, well, now I have 2/4, and if I add one more fourth, I would have 3/4, which would take care of that part. And also, we have the product of a whole number and a unit fraction. So when I see the product, that means I need to multiply. So it's a multiplication equation. A whole number, well, I have 3 whole unit fractions, so 3 will be on that side. And my unit fraction, so notice how it says unit fraction. You see unit fraction in our sum one, so it's really important to understand what a unit fraction is, would be 1 over 4. If I had to shade it in the bar, I would shade the bar in with 3 of them. So you can pause this down right now. I would recommend writing 3/4 as the sum. Said 3 times 1/4 is the product. Make sure you have those separated. I draw out the fraction bar and shade it into the idea of what does 3/4 look like on a fraction bar. And we said we're going to do the same skill again, talking about the fraction as the sum of unit fractions. So we see 3/8. So right now we see the word sum. So I see sum, I'd automatically put a plus sign in my problem, because that reminds me that I'm adding these unit fractions up. which means if I have 3/8, that means I have to have 1/8 plus 1/8 plus 1/8. And if I'm going to do the product of a whole number unit fraction, product again tells me I need to multiply. I see a whole number, which means my whole number is my numerator, which would be 3, and my unit fraction would be 1/8, because I have 3 copies of 1/8 unit fractions. Shade that in. I would shade in 3 of the 8 parts that I have on my fraction bar. So you can pause this down again, use this as an example to really get the feel for sum of unit fractions and the product of a whole number and unit fractions. And last but not least, we have the last one. Same thing, 6/11. Notice we have different number of numerators, different number of denominators that keep changing on us, but the scale of the sum of unit fraction remains the same. Sum, heck, pause the video right now, see if you can try these and see if you can figure it out before I do it right now and see if your answer is correct. And here we go. So sum, I have the plus sign, so I have 1/11, that makes 1. Another 11th makes 2/11, another 11th makes 3/11, another 11th makes 4/11, another 11th makes 5/11, and another 11th makes 6/11. That's why we like to use the product of a whole number, because it kind of speeds it up. Because repeated addition can be solved multiplication. So there's my product symbol. I have 6 copies of the 1/11th fraction. So if I shade these in, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And you pause the video, write down another example. So you have 3 great examples to notice about the sum of unit fractions. And make sure you split that up. It says sum, and then product of whole number and unit fractions. And, here's a question for you. Billy made a large sandwich for 5 people and his family. He asked his dad to help him cut it into 5 equal pieces. If each person ate, there's my typo again, see, 8, 1 piece of the sandwich, what fraction of the sandwich did each person eat? Well, if this is the whole, so here from here all the way over here is the whole, and you cut it into 1 piece, 2 pieces, 3 pieces, 4, and 5. So that means this would be 1/5, 1/5, 1/5, 1/5, and 1/5. With that, if each person ate 1 piece of the sandwich, what fraction of the sandwich did each person eat? It would be 1/5. They ate 1 piece out of the 5 possible that made up the whole. After Billy's mother and father got their pieces, what fraction of the sandwich was left? Well, if this is Billy's mom right here, so this is mom's piece, and this is dad's piece, that means what was left was 1 plus 1 plus 1. So it would be 1/5 plus 1/5 plus 1/5 equals 3/5. So you pause the video right now, write down that bar, write down that one, label it 1/5, and be able to get that as part of yours to help you out. And now it's your turn, so I want you to draw a big line on your notebook, write box 3, now your turn. And I want you to solve the following. I want you to write the sum of unit fractions and the product of a whole number of unit fractions for 7/9. Make sure you put them on separate sides as well. I would then like you to draw the fraction bar and then shade in what does 7/9 look like. You're going to do the same thing. You're going to write the sum of unit fractions and the product of a whole number unit fraction for 4/7. So you can pause the video and do that part right now. And last but not least, you're going to do the product, the sum of unit fractions, and the product of a whole number of 5/15. And now you have Marissa made a large pizza for 6 people in, holy cow, I should really edit these better, in her family. There you go. Said she asked her dad to help her cut it into 6 equal pieces. If each person ate, see the problem with copy and pasting, 1 piece of the pizza, what fraction of pizza did each person eat? After Marissa's mother and father got their pieces, what fraction of the pizza was left? You can draw the thing, pause the video, and answer those questions. As always, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, feel free to write them down or share them out. If you have any strategies that you use to help you, make sure you share them as well. And thank you again for another great lesson.